Hey everyone, what's up? This is Uri Peleg for Guerrilla Poker. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing two heads-up hands that both have a similar concept between them, which has to do with blockers. But yeah, I think they're both interesting hands. If they're played at 200, 400 with a 200 ante between Cayenne and Asian Flushy. For those of you who don't know, Asian Flushy, it's not a name you hear too often, but definitely up there in the top heads-up players in the world. Debatably better than Linus. I don't know how good this guy currently is, but he is top tier. And Cayenne, up and coming player, been doing really well at all stakes, battling everyone, lots of heart. So yeah, some interesting concepts in here. So without further ado, Cayenne raises to 1,000, 2.5x, Asian Flushy 3 bets to 4,400, and Cayenne calls. So kind of standard stuff so far. Jack 8 to two-tone board, and Flushy bets half pot. And with the level that these guys are at, we're going to assume this is the correct size, and even that it's more or less a balanced range. So generally speaking, when you bet half pot, it's not a range bet. So you divide your range into hands that really want to check, like, say, sevens, that probably check tons, and hands that really want to bet, like, say, queens or ace-jack, that bet tons. And you mix stuff up in both ranges. That's generally how it goes. You don't want the ranges to be too face-up. So Flushy bets, Cayenne calls, turn 6 of diamonds, in 3-bet pots. Flush coming in shifts things a ton in favor of the caller, because the advantage of the 3-better lies in the aces, kings, queens, so the one pair region. And the 3-better even has more offsuit hands like ace, king, ace, queen, king, queen. So once the flush comes in, Flushy has to slow down with tons of his range, and Cayenne gets to be really aggressive. We get this initiative shift. So Flushy checks, Cayenne bets 3rd pot, and what this does is it lets him kind of bet fairly wide because he's now the aggressor. So he gets to make some thin bets, maybe with like a Jack 10 or some hand that wants some protection, and still keep that range protected with his flushes. River is the king of diamonds, so kind of another haymaker, because if you think about, well, Cayenne has more suited hands and Flushy has more offsuit hands and pocket pairs, well, suddenly who has more single diamond hands? Maybe the initiative shifts, and I could see Flushy developing a donk betting range here, but he doesn't do that. He checks. Cayenne goes all in, repping, ace of diamonds for sure, queen of diamonds for sure. Maybe 10 of diamonds could do this, maybe 9 of diamonds. I don't know how far down you go. Flushy calls, and we see a showdown with Cayenne showing ace 10 of diamonds for the nut flush, and Flushy showing king jack for 2 pair. And when I see this hand, it's a boring standard hand. Like, there's no other way to play for any of the players. And I want to kind of make sure to explain why, because it has to do with blockers. So, yeah, pre-flop is kind of solved in Hold'em, so it plays the way it plays. And like we said, on flop, you could see Flushy sometimes checking, maybe Cayenne sometimes raising. But once we get to the turn Flushy has to check, Cayenne bets, Flushy calls, and specifically on the river, why is this such a standard call with 2 pair on a 4 to a flush board? The way to think about this is, which cards do we want to bluff catch with? So whenever we have a flush, say you have 5-7 of diamonds, what your cards do, they don't really block the value range of Cayenne, and it's going to be difficult to block his value range when it's filled with 1-card flushes, because then you just have a call like, sure, ace of diamonds blocks his value range. It's also the nuts, right? So ace of diamonds, queen of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, we're going to call. But other than that, what we want to do is make sure that we're not blocking any bluffs. And the bluffing range for Cayenne is generally going to be 2 non-diamond cards, which is why with 5-7 of diamonds, you unblock the bluffing range. But it's not going to be a king or a jack. Those hands are going to show down. So king jack is completely unblocking the bluffing range. It's on par for calling with 5-7 of diamonds. And so these are very standard calls. And the way I conceptualize my bluff catching range in these situations is, you have your value catchers, which, maybe beat value, like queen of diamonds, which you always call. Next here, you have your good bluff catchers. So that would be 5-7 of diamonds and something like king jack off, which in theory always call and win you money, but maybe in some situations you can make a read and fold them. And then you have your indifferent bluff catchers. So say you had something like ace jack here. You know, you're beating bluffs, having the ace isn't ideal, but it's a zero EV theory hand. And then you might have bad bluff catchers, and a bad bluff catcher here would be something like 10 of hearts, 10 of clubs, where you actually both of your cards block bluffs. When you visualize this ranking of hands, you can kind of understand where you're at. And then King Jack is, you know, it's a plus EV call, and you need a good reason to fold it. And that's it. So blocker hand number 1. Let's do a quick number 2. So 3-bet pot, flushy raises to 1K, Cayenne 3-bets to 4,400, flushy calls, and we get an A7 deuce two-tone board. Go the quarter pot from Cayenne, probably range betting, flushy calls. Turn king of clubs, Cayenne checks, and at this point, you know, what's Cayenne checking? Lots of give-ups, lots of pocket pairs, queens, jacks, tens, nines, eights, sixes, 7x, king x, weak ace x, so his range is very wide for checking. What's flushy checking back? Similarly, anything that he called on the flop almost could check back. Now, presumably, he's not slow playing, so we expect him to bet most of his, like, if he has ace, queen, ace, jack, if he has deuces or sevens or two pair, etc. But he could check back ace, eight, he could check back king high, he could check back flush draws, like everything's on the table. So we get 3 of clubs river, Cayenne makes a small third pot bet, and you can ask yourself, well, what hand strength would make a third pot bet? Is a king good enough? Is this like king queen plus? Is this an ace 4 plus? Like, where's the threshold exactly? And this is where I say I'm rusty, because I don't know the exact threshold, and these guys probably do, and it's fairly important to know. And then he throws in bluffs, and based on the small bet size, he can't throw in too many bluffs. And then Flushy's going to look at his hand and he's going to say, well, good catcher or bad catcher, right? So Flushy calls, he shows fours, Cayenne shows 10-9 of hearts. Ask yourself, stop and ask yourselves, is Flushy's call very, very standard? Like, which category of bluff catchers does this fall under? I mean, look at pocket fours. So what's Cayenne bluffing with? Can he be bluffing with a hand that has a 4 specifically? And the answer is it's kind of hard for him to find a bluff with a 4. Not a lot of hands with a 4-3 bet in the first place. 4-5's not a bluff. 3-4 maybe doesn't bluff and maybe barrels the turn. So sure, you could say, well, what if he has Jack 4 of hearts? There are a few hands. But having pocket 4s here is fairly nice, whereas having something like pocket 9s in Flushy's shoes would be a lot worse, because there are a lot of hands with a 9 that can bluff, right? There's 8, 9, 10, 9, Jack 9, just for starters, which is a lot of hands, whereas with a 4 you have to really struggle to find the bluffs. So I would put Flushy's call firmly in the, like, this is a snap call hand, you expect this to make money. Cayenne's bluff, you know, he probably doesn't get to bluff this hand 100% of the time. Like I said, he has so many of them, so we're going to assume he's randomizing in some way. Again, kind of standard hand for me to see, but I think it illustrates this concept of where do you rank your bluff catcher, which is a nice concept. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know any thoughts for the next one, and I'll see you next time.